All right, welcome to class tonight. We have holiday sides and desserts, and I'm gonna set it up here so we see Chef Katie. Take it away.
All right. Hello. Welcome. Thank you all, just as Heather said, for supporting our program and for being here. And bravo to you folks that are here cooking along. Certainly, if I'm like whipping through way too fast, let me know. But I do think that I have put a pretty good plan together so that I can move at a pace that should be good for everybody. There were a few things. I know we sent out a message just to remind folks that it might help to get a few things done ahead of time, like making sure you have all of your ingredients. When prepping this for your actually holiday meal, if you are so compelled to use these recipes, it is always the best idea to have all of your ingredients ready. We call this mise en place in the restaurant world. And I'll show you this, at least just one example here that I have is all my stuff for my cake. I've got my sugar, my butter, egg, apples, and then underneath here, I have all of my dry ingredients already measured. So this type of preparation is going to make cooking a lot less stressful. The other great thing that why I chose some of these recipes as well is that they also will last for a good 24, 48 hours ahead of time so that you're not I know oven space is always a big concern when the holidays are coming up. So things like roasting your carrots in advance, making the salad dressing, the yogurt. So I'll kind of talk through that as well about great things that hold in advance. So the first thing I'm going to do, since my oven's already preheated, is I'm going to toast my cumin. It is certainly similar to toasting nuts. The minute you smell it, turn it off and get it out of the skillet. That skillet is going to hold that residual heat, and it will go from smelling beautiful and those oils kind of blooming to it smelling quite rancid. So we're going to toast all of it, which is 2.5 teaspoons. I've also, for the first time ever, I've taped all of my recipes up on my cabinet here, which I got to say, I think is like a great little hack. Because it keeps it like perfectly at my eye level. As you can imagine, as a chef, I actually don't follow recipes. So it is something that I do just for you folks at home, is I actually follow the recipe, although chances are you're gonna see me deviate. Because I am a rule breaker. I always have been. And I actually like to really teach people when they're cooking that it's okay to be a rule breaker as well. There are some things that you need to be a little bit more of a stickler with, but for the most part, a good amount of cooking can allow you to have some fluctuation. I have this little ceramic bowl already next to my skillet so that when my cumin starts smelling, I can pull it immediately. I want to show you guys too, I also put all of my silverware, or I'm sorry, utensils that I feel like I'm going to use for the night. I have them in this plastic container, and there's water in that container. That means that I don't have to worry about necessarily like washing dishes or rinsing off a spoon. It also means that everything is right in arm's reach. And that is also when we talk a lot about mise en place, why we really stress that that's a great idea. It's because when you have things in arm's reach, it means you're not turning your back on your stove. And often when we turn our back on our stove is when we end up having something burn. So really this isn't gonna taste long. I already can smell my cumin, so I'm gonna go ahead and scrape it out. It doesn't look any different, but you can smell that the oils have come out of the cumin. It's just gonna give it that little extra oomph. And then I'm really just rinsing out my pan while it's still hot even, and I'm just gonna put it back on my stove because I'm gonna use it again. So now my cumin is in this little ceramic container cooling, and we're gonna move on to, actually this is what I'm gonna do. So I have all of my aromatics here, which was my thyme, this bay leaf. Thank you, Edible Schoolyard, for that fresh bay leaf. And I've got my garlic. So we are going to, perfect place for my cocktail. I think that I found it. Okay, so with the garlic, we're just going to smash it and get it out of the paper, okay? It's just gonna be bringing an essence of garlic, and we're gonna end up discarding it at the end. So don't worry about, we're not chopping it. And you want it to still kind of be whole so that you can easily, you know, pull it off of the tray when we're all done. I also have over here next to my cocktail glass, my trash, treasure, and compost. This is another trick that restaurant folks do and that we push a lot at Gold Ring, is that if you don't have to step away to throw things into your trash, then again, you're never turning away from your lovely food to where it might burn. We also love holding on to items like onion peels and carrot peelings and celery, because we use that to make our own stock. Especially with Thanksgiving coming up, I know we're gonna have a turkey, and I'm pretty jazzed to know that I have a freezer full of scraps, so that when my bones are nice and toasty brown, we'll probably roast our carcass after we pick the meat off of it, but that I'll be able to just make my chicken stock with our turkey stock without having to prep any of the vegetables. Okay, the next thing I'm gonna show you is it tells you to score, and that just means I'm dragging my knife so that there's some little lines on it. And it kind of broke through, but you don't want it to be in like numerous pieces. Again, this is just to help get that aromatic going, so that when we roast our carrots together, they have that lovely scent. Okay, so I've got my big bowl. I pre-prepped some of my carrots, but I did save some to show you guys what they look like. So this is what they looked like when I picked them up from the farmer's market. So two things I'm gonna do. I'm gonna trim the top of my carrot top, and I'm also gonna get rid of any of these like little scragglers, because those are gonna burn. Now, if it's, you know, narrow, it's fine, but these little tiny ones, you definitely wanna trim off, because if you get that kind of burnt taste into it, it's gonna be acidic. So I'm just trimming the tops off. I'm gonna save these carrot tops for my stock.
I like that you got carrots that aren't orange. That's so fun, Katie. I love when you can mix it up and do different colors.
Yes, well, and tis the season for, you know, young carrots to be coming out of the ground. I don't think New Orleans is special in that happening. I feel like in some northern states, they're hopefully getting this early carrot as well, but we definitely are seeing carrots and beets at our farmer's market, some of those like early root vegetables. All right, and then now I'm just gonna go and trim off these little loose ends here. Now I do like I said, some of the narrow part of it, because texturally and flavor wise, you know, it's going to get a little bit browner, but it's just the ones that are super skinny that you want to trim off. And then I'm going to show you guys one other little technique. If you are, you know, really whining and dining somebody or trying to show off, this is a nice little thing that you can do as well. And it's just this manner of cleaning off the top of my carrot. So you can see like there's a little bit of this dead, you know, older carrot greens, and they peel off really nicely or fairly easily. But even better is a little paring knife, and you just kind of scrape and turn. And you don't have to be too fussy, because, you know, you're going to be roasting these. I definitely washed these really well. Sometimes I get like a little brush to help myself wash these things because I don't want to have to worry about peeling them. And also I think that this is like the restaurant person in me. I often was the fish and veg cook. And so there's like a certain level of delicacy that goes with those where they want these little carrots to look as pretty as possible. So scraping off that little extra brown spot is nice. Once we get our carrots in the oven, we are going to start prepping our broccoli so that when the carrots come out of the oven, we can throw our broccoli right into the oven. And then we are going to jump back to our carrot recipe and make our dressing and our yogurt. Now, the dressing and the yogurt are great examples of something that could be made even 2 or 3 days ahead of your special meal. Even though they're actually even will be better 2 days later. It gives that cumin and the yogurt a chance to really marry. And the same with the ingredients in our salad dressing. I was fortunate enough to find blood oranges at our local Whole Foods. This is the time of year for all of that beautiful citrus from Florida and Texas and Louisiana. So if you're fortunate enough to have access to that, take advantage of it. I'd say at this time of year, we all need all the vitamin C we can get.
Now, Katie, if somebody can't find those like little baby cutesy carrots that you get from the farmer's market, they can totally use the bigger normal ones, right?
Yes, exactly. And in our recipe, we said that for you just to cut it in quarters lengthwise so that you would still have something, you know, like about this size. You just want to cut it down. But the way that the dish lays on the plate, you really want these long stalks of carrot.
I can't wait to see the plating of this. As I was helping type up the recipe, I was like, gosh, this just sounds like it's going to be so good and look so beautiful. I can't wait.
Yeah. Well, and also as our recipe says, I recommended that when as your oven is preheating, that your trays, so a half sheet tray like this, I've always preheat. Anytime I'm roasting a vegetable, I always preheat my pans as my oven is preheating. This is just gonna help you get a lot more even color on it. It's also gonna help it cook a little bit faster as well. It's kind of the same idea as you preheating your skillet before you actually cook.
It's a great tip that I feel like is a newer thing people are doing, kind of.
Yeah. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and start adding I have my half a teaspoon of cumin and my bay leaf and thyme and garlic all go in. I'm proud to say I grew the thyme myself. I am not the best owner of plants or herbs, but I find that even a poorly growing thyme plant is like enough thyme versus going to a grocery store. Sometimes you have to buy such a big container of it, and then you're kind of like, what am I supposed to do with this? So if I do find myself in that position, what I tend to do is I dry it myself so that I have this kind of freshly dried stuff. My oil here is a equal parts of olive oil and canola oil. That is just my preference because it means that I can saute on a pretty high heat without my oil burning. And then in my other chefy manner, I'm just gonna toss these carrots in my bowl. When you take your pan out of the oven, definitely be very careful. It is really easy to forget that you preheated that pan and accidentally grab it with your bare hand. So please use caution. I think that's plenty mixed. I'm gonna go ahead and pull my pan out of the oven. And then I'm gonna arrange the carrots in a way that they're not all, you know, they're not touching too closely. If you feel like you need to use a second pan, you can, but what I'm kind of trying to do is like alternate my, on the side here so that they're kind of like shingled, maybe, is that a word? I'll show you guys once I get them all on here. The other thing to keep in mind is that I have some carrots that, let me see, my biggest one, are this big, and some that are this big, which means that I'm definitely gonna have to keep an eye on my, okay, this is another good trick, is that I'm gonna take that last wipe of carrots and try to get all of that cumin and salt out of that, my bowl. Okay, so here are my carrots, and in the oven they're gonna go. I do have my top rack moved up pretty high, and I can always rotate if I need to. I am gonna set a timer because even on a good day, I forget things. So I'm gonna start for 12 minutes, and then I'll take a look at them and see if I need to rotate or turn or what. Okay, let's make our broccoli. Uh-oh. These are the dangers of putting your cocktail near the compost. I had some carrot tops in there. Broccoli.
Yummy.
Okay, yeah. extra calcium, or, you know, vitamin C. So here's another great example of how I did my mise en place for my broccoli. Yes, Heather.
Quick question. Do you want those carrots roasting on that top rack, or do you have them on your lower rack right now?
I have them on the top rack.
Okay, roasting on the top rack for carrots. Yeah. Got it.
And you can certainly like do it in the middle. I have this weird oven where I have a top oven that's small, and then I have a lower oven that's like a medium-ish. And so it's just easier for me, I think, in the roasting world to start on the top rack, and then I can rotate down to the bottom rack if need be.
Laura
Okay.
is also asking if we should use convection if we have the ability to do convection. Yes, we love convection at GCCM. We have a convection oven, and it will definitely save you time. It cooks faster, and you'll get a little more browning too, right? Love it. I'm drinking tea. You're drinking a cocktail, and I'm over.
I know, but I was cheersing Caitlin. She's got a cocktail. I see her.
Everyone cheers.
Okay.
My tea.
So here we are. This is also broccoli from my farmer's market, proud to say. And in the recipe, I talked about that you want to cut the crowns. You want to try to get close, you know, to here, to where it's starting to branch off a little bit. So I am, because as you can see, right, it's kind of weird. I'm going to make a couple of cuts. And I'm going to turn my camera so you guys can see those cuts. Okay, so I'm going to start here on the side. Okay, and cut. That way I can see what I'm doing. I'm not just like hacking away at it. Okay. Did you like that sound effect?
I really did. I really did.
All right, and so now like a bigger piece like this, you can really just kind of pull it. And I would say that like this size floret, you know, like what you would want on your fork, like a good bite, you know, is what I go for. So I'm just putting these into a bowl, just kind of tearing apart the bigger ones. These little ones can just go right in. And then I'm going to show you guys my favorite thing, which is called broccoli hearts. So normally folks would just compost or throw away that bottom, but I'm going to show you guys the most delicious treat that comes out of the bottom of the broccoli.
Another thing I can't wait to see.
Yeah, so you can kind of see when you look at this. Actually, here, let me show. I do usually cut the bottom inch off. So that goes into my compost. And now you can see like where it gets like really white, right? There's almost like a circle here. I can feel it with my finger. Can you see it in the camera at all?
Yeah, I can see it looks like it's a lighter shade, like it's whiter.
Yes.
In the center.
And so what we call this is squaring off. So I'm going to cut 4 sides. So I have one flat side there. I'm going to turn it so that it's on that flat side. Turn again, okay? And so now I've pretty much gotten rid of all of that really tough exterior. I'll probably just trim this top little bit off here, and I'm just gonna throw that in my bowl with the broccoli. Okay, this goes into my compost, those exterior pieces. And then I'm just gonna cut, so you have 2 options. You can eat the heart right this second, which is what I prefer to do, or you can add it to your broccoli. So what I do is cut it into quarters, okay? And now you have this lovely broccoli heart, and I like to eat them. The amazing thing about the broccoli heart is that it's tender, and it actually tastes really sweet. Like, it doesn't taste as much like broccoli as we would think, as much as the florets do. So the other 4, I'm gonna go ahead and just, I don't know what that timer is. I just have a few of these. They're gonna go in with my broccoli. Okay. And then I can eat this last little bit. Yummy. Okay, our broccoli, we're just gonna set aside now, because I wanna wait until the carrots come out to put the broccoli in. And the other nice thing is that it means our broccoli is not gonna be refrigerator cold, which will help it cook quicker as well. All right, let's prep our shallots. I know I said yogurt earlier, but I changed my mind. We need to get, because I didn't do any. My 1 pepper and my sugar ready to go. When prepping,
Now we get to see
these,
your little kitty cat in the window, Katie. That was a perfect view you just gave us.
wait, say that again?
Your cat's behind you in the window. You just showed us the perfect little view.
Oh yes, that's Champ. That's our Corona kitten.
He's keeping watch.
Okay, so we're gonna prep this very similar to how we would cut an onion. So we're just gonna trim the top off. And then I'll have to see how easy they peel. But sometimes what I do is I use a paring knife. And I just do like a little line down the side so that I can peel off this paper. And sometimes you end up peeling off like that whole outer skin. And honestly, it's not the end of the world, especially when you know, or at least I know, is that I'm saving some of this for stock. So I can not feel bad. But you do want to peel that paper off because it can be very bitter. So this is what our goal is a whole shallot with no skin. Now, if your shallots are really big, it's a great idea to cut them in half. It's sometimes really hard to find identical, 8 to 10 identical shallots. This recipe calls for 1.5 pounds, which is closer to like 15 shallots. And I am only personally gonna do 10 because there's only gonna be 2 adults and 2 children at my table. But the great thing is that these are going to be delicious for numerous days. So I can find some other uses for them. This one just does not want to come off.
I was going to ask Katie, you can definitely tell us later too what your other things that you could do with these are. But when I was reading through the recipe, I was thinking like, gosh, this would be so good with just about anything as a little accompaniment You could probably even use it on like a leftover Thanksgiving sandwich as like a, spreading it on to just give you that extra flavor.
Yeah, no, it's true. Like, so on a sandwich, I would probably chop it up a little bit so
Yeah,
that it would almost be like an onion jam.
yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah. It's great with roasted chicken. I think the one year that I made it for my family's meal, it was prime rib that we had for Christmas.
Yum.
And so it was just a nice side for that. I don't, I feel like I picked this because I'm the person that, like, when you do like a roast or like a stew or something, it's like the big hunks of onions are always my favorite part. I'm definitely like, I like onions, but I especially like them when they are cooked down in a way that they're very like soft and they get kind of sweet. And we're certainly helping it along by having a little bit of sugar in this recipe to get that sweetness out. But onions, I feel like caramelized onions are pretty common anymore. And so it's true that onions naturally have a lot of sugar in them. So that there's a gross one. I had a feeling I'd find a slightly gross one. So for onions like that don't look pretty like this, I'm just going to trim off that extra outside layer.
I love shallots because they're so tasty.
Yes. But the other nice thing about shallots is I think for people who actually don't love onions, which is why you often see them in like vinaigrettes, is that they bring a lot of flavor without bringing that what can be like astringent onion flavor. There's definitely a lot of people out there that don't like raw onions, or they don't sit with you very well. So I feel like when you give them this, when you bring out their natural sweetness, it's like a whole different beast. Okay. All right. Oh, I just got one more. How are my friends at home doing peeling their shallots? Carolyn, is Caitlin getting it done? You're doing good? Okay, great.
Marjorie.
And where's our other ones at the Joseph, the Walter family? You guys doing good? Okay, great.
I'm scrolling.
And Marjorie's doing good too? Okay, cool.
Latasha's giving a thumbs up. Awesome.
All right, good. Yeah, and then these little bits, like I'm not gonna bother picking through all of it, but this like interior skin, I would save for my compost, or for my, my stock.
Oh yeah.
Because that's the good stuff. But I don't have all the time in the world, whether or not I'm recording a Zoom cooking class. So I'm going to pick through a few and then I'm just going to move on. Okay, so that is my 11-minute timer. So I'm going to take a little peek at my carrots. And really at this point, I'm probably just going to be rotating the pan. I don't feel like I'm going to need to pull any carrots yet. But my oven cooks pretty lopsided. All right, so definitely gonna give it another 10 minutes and then we'll think about pulling some of those. All right, so for my pepper here, it says to cut it lengthwise, and then you're gonna take out the seeds. So again, I would use this, well, actually, you know what? You can really just use your hands and get your thumb in there and just pull it out. And then you just kind of tap. Because what you are trying to get a little bit of spice from those peppers. It does say optional on the recipe, but I like a little bit of heat with my sweet, right? Okay, but I'm also now gonna wash my hands very well. Because the peppers or the seeds is where a lot of the heat is, and you're gonna get that in your eyes.
I'm gonna share our stock making handout in the chat box
Okay.
because I think, be good. This is a good time to just let people know some information. I know you've been talking about it a little bit here and there about, making your own stock. And so yeah, I'm just letting you know I'm doing that because I think it's a good time. Why not? This is a good time of year where you might, want to think about saving some scraps and doing it.
It's true. I think this is the best time to start. And I really also stand by that if you start saving your scraps and making your own stock, you will never go back to store-bought stock. When I taste store-bought stock, what I taste in there is like the citric acid that tends to be added, which helps it not be like a really yucky color. It also helps it be shelf stable for longer. Whereas when I taste my homemade stocks, what I taste is chicken or turkey. And I will say, like, I do not taste those flavors when I taste store-bought stock. So if you ever have a chance to do that, like, side-by-side comparison, you'll make the switch is my thought.
Well, and it's great because once it's made, you can refreeze it. So you don't have to worry about like, oh, I'm going to make this big batch of stock and I have to eat it all right now. You can freeze the stock.
Yep, exactly. So here we freeze ours often in these 4-cup containers, but they also, make like 2-cup ones and 1-cup ones. There's always like Ziploc bags that you can utilize. I love freezing things in ice cube trays. Especially like tomato paste or pesto, and then I can put those ice cubes in a Ziploc bag so that I have that portion easily. I don't have to feel like I have to defrost 2.5 cups of pesto to use like 2 tablespoons of pesto. Okay, let's make our yogurt sauce. Okay. So I've got 3/4 of a cup of yogurt that I like kind of measured in this 1-cup measure. I respect a good, like eyeball. So I'm just putting that into a small bowl. And then, let's see, we've got lemon juice and cumin and some salt. So the remainder of our cumin, this should be your 2 teaspoons in here. So I'm just gonna put all that in there. And how much salt do I get? 1/8 of a teaspoon. That's okay. We didn't put a ton of salt in the yogurt because we have salt in our salad dressing. This is how I measure 1/8 of a teaspoon. I just use my 1/4 of a teaspoon and I eyeball like half of it. Because most of us don't have 1/8 of a teaspoon measures. And then for this one, since I'm just using lemon juice, my husband and I make a lot of cocktails with lemon rind. So I'm going to use this sad lemon that doesn't really have much zest left in it. And I'm definitely not going to measure. I'm just going to use a little bit. Yeah, that looked like a tablespoon. I juiced it right through my hand so that I could save. I was able to catch seeds in the little bit of my hand. And then I'm just going to stir this up and I'm going to put it back in the refrigerator covered. And remember, this is something you could definitely make 2 days in advance. Okay. Oh, yum. I just tasted it. It has this almost actually like almond taste to it.
Interesting.
Mainly because we toasted the cumin, so it just has a really kind of nutty taste. All right, and our salad dressing.
I like this carrot dish, because I think it's got so many different textures and like temperatures, and it's just something really different to me that I don't know, I'm not used to seeing this kind of stuff on my holiday table. So I think this is going to be really fun and something unique and different, you know?
And it's like really colorful. And that to have that, that variety texturally, I feel like is something we're often lacking in our holiday tables. You know, it's always like such a beige holiday and everything's cooked very soft. I did make this for Thanksgiving 2 years ago. I don't know if my mom remembers, but she might be able to give her opinion. What did you think, Fancy? Was it good when I made the carrots? Yep, she says yes.
Giving the thumbs up.
Good answer, Fancy. All right, so this is the other way I'm going to break the rules is that for the salad dressing, it says to like slowly emulsify the olive oil, but I do not have time for that. So I will just be putting mine all into a jelly jar and we'll just be shaking it. I also... I do make my own tarragon vinegar, which is as simple as bringing apple cider vinegar up to almost a boil. And then I put tarragon into a glass jar and I pour the apple cider vinegar on top. I let it cool on the counter before I put the lid on. And then you immediately have like homemade tarragon vinegar and it's so good. I'm a huge fan of tarragon, so I think it works really well in this dish. So let me there's lots of bowls for this one. All right, so I have my 2 blood oranges here. I am gonna do it very similar to the lemons where I'm just gonna juice it like right through my hands, but ooh, look at that. Those are good looking oranges. Yummy.
Now, Katie, is there a big flavor difference for people that maybe have never had blood orange? You know, is it just about the color or is there much of a flavor difference?
I think they are much sweeter, personally, but that color is definitely like the best part about it. But I think that they tend to be sweeter.
The color is gorgeous.
Yeah. And you'll see when I'm going to show everybody how to supreme the oranges as well. And so when you add this on top, you know, these beautiful like multicolored orange segments on top of the carrots, like again, you get this really beautiful contrast of colors, or maybe I should say complementary colors, because I did have some purple carrots in there. All right, and whoop, not very many seeds. There's just 1 seed in those 2 oranges. But certainly, if you cannot get blood oranges, by all means, you can use mandarin oranges, you could use navel oranges. I don't think that you're gonna lose anything really big with that. So I put it in the bowl just for squeezing purposes, but now I'm gonna go ahead and just pour it right into my glass jar. I'm gonna hold on to this bowl because I will supreme my oranges on top of this bowl so that it catches all of that juice again. All right, so we've got a tablespoon of the vinegar, apple cider, red wine vinegar, homemade tarragon vinegar. All of it will go just fine. I'm gonna finish this up and then check on my carrots because I don't think 1 minute is gonna make a difference. All right, a tablespoon of sugar. I invested in these little ramekins for Christmas last year because I made this kind of strange dessert, but I'll tell you what, having these 12 metal cups in my life is so nice. Like I serve my kids their dessert in those little cups and it looks like, ooh, a lot of dessert because it's all filled up. And
great portion control for ice cream.
I know, right? But it also is like really nice when I am doing like mise en place that I don't have to have like my big jar of sugar. I can just have this like little container of sugar. A 1/4 teaspoon of salt and then a 1/4 cup of oil. Now, if you make this dressing in advance, you are going to want to store it in the refrigerator. But when it comes time to serve it, you are definitely going to want to pull it from the refrigerator in time to let your oil come up to room temperature.
And these kind of dressings they last in the fridge for a long time.
Yes.
Yeah, so if you like the flavor of this, you could even make a bigger batch to like just use on whatever.
Yep. I totally agree. We love making salad dressings homemade at Goldring. So here's my dressing. I'm just going to give it a good shake. And you'll see that it really becomes uniform very easily. So many dressings do not need this neurotic, slowly whisking in. So save yourself the hassle.
Get a jar.
Get a jelly jar for it. Exactly.
Jar. Or you don't even need a jar. You just need get a Tupperware with a lid. It doesn't even matter what it is. Something with a lid that's gonna not fall off when you shake it. Yes, look, I see Marjorie shaking her jar right now. Shake, shake, shake.
Okay. So my carrots are looking nice, but I definitely need some more time. Even my little ones are still fairly hard. And I'm even gonna turn my oven up a little bit because I would personally like to see a little more color on them. So I just bumped it up like 10 degrees. Okay. Nothing big, just a little.
Katie, do you have to use like an internal thermometer in your oven? Do you recommend that for people? I know my oven is so bad where I live right now, and so I got one because I knew it was off, and I just was like, I need to find out how off it is.
Yes. So I definitely do. And what I really like to use it for is I move it around in my oven into like the 4 quadrants so that I can really learn where my hottest spots are. So like I know that my front right-hand corner of my oven is where everything burns. So, which can be to my advantage. It also means that's where I can get things to color nicely. So sometimes I will position something just in that one corner, that one part, knowing that it's going to get the hottest there.
Yeah, you really got to learn your own stove and your own oven.
Okay, I think that we should do the shallots. You guys feel ready to do the shallots?
Yeah. Oh my God, Caitlin's, they're dancing.
Those girls have fun.
Yeah. I think they're drinking, they're dancing, and cooking all at the same time.
I know, but they're New Orleans girls. I mean, they're not messing around.
How's everyone else doing? Everyone feeling good?
I am going to use my cast iron skillet that I love so deeply for these shallots for 2 reasons. One is that it's going to give me a nice, even heat. But also it goes into my oven very easily. So, you know, this is one of those recipes that we're going to start on the stovetop and then we're going to finish in the oven. So if you have a pan that does both, that is definitely going to be your best bet. If you don't have a pan that does both, you could definitely transfer it out of your skillet onto like a small pan like this. But you don't want it to be too big because, you know, it's going to kind of stew in these juices, the sugar and the vinegar. So I've got this on like medium high heat to start, and let's see how much oil we get. Oh, we get butter. I forgot about that.
I was gonna say, this is the one dish in particular that we didn't really try to make it healthy per se. We just, you know, honestly, but we ran the nutrition, and with the portion that you're gonna eat, it's fine. You know, we're not saying at Goldring you can never have butter in your diet. There's a place for everything, and sometimes I think particularly with what you're doing with these shallots, the butter, ooh, yum, gonna make it. We're gonna use the butter where it's gonna count.
That's a good way to look at it. And so because I know I use like less than 1.5 pounds of shallots, I'm only gonna do about 3 tablespoons of butter in my pan. And I know the way we wrote it, what's it say? That you want it to, until the foaming subsides. And so you'll see that your butter, you know, it kind of bubbles up. But when after it stops bubbling is when it really starts to become what we know as brown butter. So you do want to act pretty quickly once the butter stops the foaming. You want to be able to have your shallots ready, which is why we have them all prepped. I've got my bowl right here, which actually I guess I should be showing you guys my butter. And you just, it says to just like swirl it. Again, like my whole house tilts kind of back to the left. So sometimes you gotta like help it along. But what we're cooking off is that extra bit of just like water that's in the butter, so that again you have like the purest essence of butter. Oh yeah, and here, I'm gonna put 5 more minutes on my carrots. I almost forgot to do that. Okay, so this is an important part, I think, when it comes to how you're gonna get like a nice, good brown color, is to not fuss with your shallots too much. Now, it's nice to rotate your pan. So I really try to treat my pan like a clock. So I'll start at 6, turn to 9, 12, 3. This is gonna help me get a nice, even color on all of my shallots. And then it also helps that when you pick your shallots, that you really do your best to try to find ones that are uniform in size. So I'm gonna go ahead and lay my shallots down here. And I'm just gonna sprinkle a little bit of salt on top and let them start getting brown.
I can hear them.
Yeah, you hear them sizzling a little?
Yeah, that's what you want to hear. They probably smell good already too.
Yeah, and you know what? I'm actually going to show you guys. Sometimes you get a shallot like this that has like 2 parts. I'm going to go ahead and snap that apart just so that I have like a nice flat side for that one. And so this will be nice too because you'll have a couple of bigger ones and some small ones that are going to get like extra soft. So we're gonna let this get brown for at least about 5 minutes. And how much salt do we get? Half a teaspoon.
We really went for it with this one.
I know, I love it.
We get the butter and the salt. But again, you informed that we are not going to eat like half of this dish. We're eating just a small little. It's a little accompaniment on your plate with all your other dishes that you're going to have on the holidays. You're never just going to have, this isn't going to be like a quarter of your plate. It's just gonna be a
right.
Little something extra.
All right, so I just gave my skillet a little shake because I sprinkled that little bit of salt in there. But from now on, all I'm going to do is rotate my pan so that they're cooking evenly. Let's take a peek at our carrots. Why don't we? Because I think my little ones, nope, those carrots are just chilling. So we'll get to them next. Our broccoli is ready to go. I actually have, Caitlin, your shallots are looking really good.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. See, that's a really good amount because she's, it's like has filled up the pan, but it's not overcrowding it. So that's really good. Mine, you'll see, has like, there's kind of like some open spaces, which could possibly like burn. So you just want to keep an eye on them. But I'll also show you that where mine are starting to get a little bit brown. Can you see that on the?
Oh yeah. I can see
so like this one, yeah. So it doesn't take long. Again, we've got a lot of sugar going on in here. Sugar from the onions, but like the brown butter is also going to help. So I'm actually going to go ahead and flip these over because I've got a pretty nice brown color. And obviously they're gonna get some more brown color in the oven. All right, so I think once you flip them, you add all your stuff, right? Oh no, the other side we're gonna give a few more minutes to get nice and brown as well. And then I think we'll go ahead and get the broccoli in the oven too. And we can get started on our cake.
Yay, cake.
Yeah. So often, I'll tell you guys a little thing about the cake. So we made this cake earlier this year when it was summertime, and I had compulsively picked a lot of blueberries. And so we came up with this cake, and I was so very happy to develop it into a cake that was a little more appropriate for our season. So now we've got apples and pears in place of our blueberry. And then we added a few, you know, what we know as apple pie spice, which is, you know, cinnamon and garlic and cloves. I didn't bother with the allspice and the nutmeg because, again, I want this, this is the type of cake that I kind of wish folks would make like on a Wednesday, right? Where they're like, this cake is so easy that I can make like a really simple dessert and have it be, it doesn't have to be like for some special holiday. It's not extremely laborious. It's really nice, and it's really adaptable. And then the reason we really love it at Goldring is because it has cornmeal in it, which is how we're gonna incorporate that extra whole grain into the recipe. At my house, we do not tend to have milk on hand all the time. Today, I happen to have milk, so I will be using milk for my recipe. But my favorite hack is to, okay, wait, I'm gonna pause for a second and add the rest of our stuff. So we're gonna add a cup of water and the sherry vinegar.
You leave us in suspense.
And I'm actually, again, I'm gonna add a little bit less than a cup because I didn't make the full recipe, which I probably shouldn't have used all the salt, but too late.
Well, I think if you don't have hypertension, you're probably good.
There you go. So sherry vinegar, I'll give you guys a tip, is really cheap at World Market. They sell this like delicious brand. This is exactly what restaurants use, but I find that it's not only available, but fairly inexpensive at World Market if you have a World Market where you live. I know my mom was really sad when they closed down the one in Cincinnati, but we still have it here on the West Bank. And let's see, we get a little bit of sugar too, a teaspoon of sugar. So I'll do, you know, like a half a teaspoon. And we'll throw our aromatics in there. Our pepper and our thyme. And so, yeah, so I remember actually we had a big debate at Goldring if we wanted to keep sherry vinegar on our recipes because it is expensive and not something that people always have at home. But I will say it is a really delicious vinegar, and vinegars last forever. So even if it's an investment, it's not like you're going to end up throwing it away. But I was happy to have this other recipe to show you guys, you know, a dish you can cook with it. All right, so now those shallots go in the oven. I'm gonna set a timer. I'm also gonna check on my carrots again because they are looking a little bit better. Okay, so I wanna show you guys now how my carrots look, right? So I've got these really little ones here. I'm gonna go ahead and pull off the little ones and put the bigger ones back in. So I just have a pan right here next to my tray, and you know, my carrots that are this size, I'm gonna go ahead and yank, because otherwise they're gonna get kind of burnt. They also can get like a little dry, and then they're not as flavorful because you've kind of like zapped the moisture out of them. So this is also going to open up some space on my tray and allow the rest of my carrots to cook. I think this is one of those things that, you know, they don't always tell you in recipes, and so people maybe would just leave them all on the tray until the largest carrot was cooked all the way through. So paying attention to your food in this manner of being like, oh, well, this carrot is cooked. I'm also going to move my biggest carrots over to the corner over here so that, because I know that those are going to cook, you're going to get like a little more heat in them. So this type of like rotation, if it's thoughtful, can be really to your benefit. So these are going to go back in the oven. They will share that same timer as my shallots. And I think I'm going to go ahead and put my broccoli in now too, because I do have this enough space. Do my friends at home all have enough space in their oven for carrots, broccoli, and shallots? All right, I think I'm getting some, I at least got one yes. So we're going to roll with it. Because regardless, like I think you'll get the idea of like how to roast broccoli, right? You're looking for like some brown, crispy edges on it. Remember I've had this pan preheating this whole time in there. And let's see, we got 2 tablespoons of oil for this one. I did get Heather to let us have a little extra oil on this one because you really are looking for that like crispy, crunchy like color. And it just isn't the same if you don't have that much brown on it. It's just not the same flavor. Okay. So I got oil. I'm going to toss. And let's see. I'm sure we get some salt and pepper. Oh, we are going to zest a lemon on here too, huh? Yes. Oh yeah, we didn't put any salt. Oh, I forgot that is the awesome thing. So about this. So when we advertised this dish, we did not say anchovies because I think we were a little nervous that people would think that sounds gross. But let me tell you, these anchovies are going to transform this broccoli in a way that and it's hard to believe. I'm like, I had all of my equipment and now I've lost my zester. Not there. Just give me 1 second to find that zester. There's my lemon. Oh, I bet it was one of my kids took it.
Have they been coming in and trying to?
Oh, I found it. Okay, I take it back. It was not my children. It was not your beautiful grandchildren, Fancy. They are innocent. Okay, so let me show you guys how I like to zest. I set my zester so that it hits my bowl, right? That's gonna help it stay like flat. And I am going to hold my lemon kind of like a baseball, and I'm gonna turn as I zest, So I go from head to tail, and then I turn my lemon, head to tail. Now, zesters, you really always just want to go in one direction. It helps them stay really sharp. And you should be able to see here, let's see, there we go, where I did my very first one, and here's a little bit left. But so this really helps you get, the majority of your zest. And then you just kind of tap, tap, tap it on top. And then I did kind of learn this the other day when I first tried this, is that you have to kind of sprinkle the zest around, okay? And again, I'm just gonna give it one more toss, and then it's gonna go right on my hot pan. I'm gonna get that last little bit of zest on there. Sprinkle it out. I'm gonna keep telling myself this pan is hot so that I do not try to pick it up with my hands. I've heard that people have done that before.
That would be bad.
Yeah, never me. Never. I've never done it. This hack has never come back to haunt me. All right, and in it goes.
Sometimes I think leaving a pot holder like on the edge of the pan is a good reminder to
Yes.
yourself.
I agree with that one. That is a good trick to be like, hey, don't be a dum-dum.
Yeah.
This one's hot. All right. Now, I think what we should do, I don't know what I held on to this for. Oh, I'm so surprised actually that we didn't zest those blood oranges. I kind of feel like,
Missed opportunity, maybe?
yeah, for real. But you know what? It's not too late.
Not too late. Or next time. I will say, I agree. I am definitely a proponent of if I'm going to use citrus, I probably am going to use the zest and the juice.
Yeah, that zest compounds that flavor so much more that it really, it's kind of silly to not.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I guess unless you were really looking for something super mild in citrus flavor in your dish, but I don't know when that would really apply.
Yeah, not at all. All right, so I'm gonna actually just do my same trick. So this is that bowl I held on to supreme my oranges. So I'm just gonna zest one of them and then add it to my salad dressing. Joe, my husband, makes this really fabulous cocktail for me that has a lot of blood orange juice and blood orange zest and ginger. And you make a syrup out of it.
Yum.
So lucky me, he bought some extra blood oranges when I sent him to the store today. So Mama gets a cocktail, but not today. Maybe later this week. All right, let me take a sip.
It sounds like a festive. It sounds like a good festive.
It's so good. And when I was pregnant, it was really nice just with soda water.
Oh yeah,
Like
that's
this.
yeah for people who don't
Orangey,
drink.
gingery. Yeah, it was like a great mocktail too.
I love a mocktail. Sometimes you just want some refreshing, you know. Oh,
Yeah.
Lily says now we need the cocktail recipe. Maybe we can include that when we send the email tomorrow, Katie. If you want
Yes.
send it to me, and I'll include it in the email with the video.
I like it. I think it's a great idea. Okay, so now I want to show you guys how to supreme an orange.
Great.
I've got my chef's knife here, and this is what I'm going to use. Some people use a paring knife or a smaller knife. I personally am just a lot more confident using my chef's knife in general, so I choose that as my weapon of choice. So I'm going to cut the top and the bottom off of my orange. It gives me a good sneak preview. So the first thing I'm really trying to do is cut all of this pith off. But I'm also going to just squeeze. I mean, it's just like a teaspoon of juice, but again, it feels like, why waste that little bit? All right, now I'm going to be cutting an arc, right? Because I'm trying to get, and you'll see, not every cut is like perfect. You can go back and fix that. But what I'm trying to do is not waste any of the orange, any of the actual meat. I'm just trying to get the pith off. Heather, is this a decent angle for you guys to see how I'm doing this?
I can see it okay, yeah.
Okay, all right, great.
I will say I am somebody who does tend to use the paring knife. So I do think
Okay.
if people feel more comfortable, they can get a little closer. I personally do this with a paring knife.
Okay. So now that I see I still have these like little pieces, now's the time I'm going to actually just kind of hold it in my hand. And you'll see I'm doing this kind of sawing motion to get that last little bit of the pith off. Okay, so I'm pretty happy with that, right?
Beautiful.
All gone. Now, for my next trick is to do the Supremes. And this is why I'm going to hold it over a bowl, because it is going to have some juice coming off of it. So the very first cut I'm going to make is going to be as close to one of those lines as possible. And then I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. And the first one, oh, that's pretty good, should just pop right out. So there's one Supreme. And then I'm going to teach you guys a great trick. Now I'm going to do my next cut as close to the line again. But what I'm going to do this time is fold that piece over. My knife is going to go in, and I'm actually going to do a little cut. Oh man, now it's all like falling apart. Arr. All right, I'm going to use my thumb actually to get a little bit in there. Oop, there it is. And now it just peels back. So I don't even have to make that second cut. The orange itself like pulls off of the, so I'm making kind of a little cut here, but my knife then is just gonna peel this back.
Wow, and you don't have any waste this way. I really like that method, Katie. I have never done that method myself, but I will definitely be trying that the next time I do this, because I see like you really are getting that full.
All of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're only leaving behind that little pithy part, or the, you know, the membrane in the middle.
Yep.
Between each segment. It looks beautiful.
Yeah. So the very first cut, I do the like cut on the two sides, but once you get one cut in, it's really easy to do this. And also I'm utilizing my thumb. I'm kind of like pulling the skin back, you know, I'm like paying attention to the you know, orange, I guess. This also can be done, I would say at the most 1 day in advance. It is very stressful to try to Supreme oranges when you feel like you are on a time crunch. My child just crawled in the kitchen like something out of like a horror movie, like on his hands and knees. But daddy got him. Okay, and now here's my last one. This is sometimes easier just to peel it. All right, so here are our beautiful Supremes. Not as hard as I think folks make it out to be. So I'm gonna do one more. Again, 2 tops off. Let's see, I'm gonna set a timer because I obviously didn't.
Yeah, do we have? Oh yeah, you've got it all in the oven now, so we gotta check them out when it's.
Yep, exactly. My carrots are in there.
But I'm sure that if they were burning, you would smell them.
Yes, indeed.
That's usually my method. When I forget to set the timer, all of a sudden I'll be like, oh, I smell something. Check it out. Yeah, I will say, Katie, this part I do kind of like to use the chef knife. I agree. You know, it's usually sharper. Sometimes I do like to switch over to the paring, but I think it's whatever you feel more comfortable and confident with.
Yes. See, and that's what I think the real key is like confidence. I say the same thing about pie crust, is that like it can smell your fear. Pie crust, biscuits, things like that take like, that you really only are good at when you do it a bunch of times. So as you can imagine, I worked at a restaurant where this was part of the setup of my station, was Supreming all of these oranges for a salad. And so once I figured out this trick, my life was a lot easier, honestly, because I was getting these really big, beautiful Supremes. And there's also something gratifying. I'm not an extremely OCD person, but when you peel an orange peel off and like there's nothing on here, okay, that's gratifying.
Oh, yeah.
You know? Like, I only like cleaning things that at the end of it, you're like, whoa, look at that. Look how much I cleaned. Right, Mom? Yep, she agrees.
She approves.
Yes, my daughter would like to come and say hi to her grandmother real quick. Oh, here she is. Say hi, Nancy.
I can't see.
Are you sick? Oh, what's wrong?
I have a fever.
No. Did you
Yeah.
get back to school?
She's okay. She's
Yeah.
been resting. The Tylenol's been working.
Good.
Everything's good here. All right,
Yeah.
go back in there with Daddy.
Bye, sweetie. I love you.
Okay, so let's take a peek at our carrots. Because now, just like Heather said, I can smell them. I will warn you, those blood orange will definitely stain your towel, so be thoughtful about what you wipe it up with.
Oh, that's a good tip. I didn't know that.
Yeah. It's kind of like beets or like turmeric, like
Beets are
use
the worst,
something, yeah, you don't care about.
but I love beets, so they're not really the worst. They're just the worst when it comes to staining. All right, carrot cam. Let's see. Oh,
Yeah.
Mm.
There we go. And we're looking for is soft. So like my fork went right through those really big ones. So I am very happy with how those carrots turned out. So for simplicity, I'm just gonna dump them back there. I am gonna pull off that thyme and the bay leaf and the garlic. I will show you is like nice and roasted. So if you like roasted garlic, you could like smear that on a piece of crusty bread or throw it in like an olive oil and hold on to it. I know some folks don't love just throwing stuff away, but these garlics did their job. So now we're gonna pull them out. Okay. And now I'm gonna move my broccoli up to the top because it's been hanging out here at the bottom. Okay, and I'm gonna set my timer for about 5 more minutes to check on that. And let's look at our shallots while we're at it. Oh yeah. Okay, so I'm glad I pulled the shallots. And let me show you how these boys look. So you'll also see that my fork just goes right through. So some of these bigger ones, I'm actually not gonna worry about, because I'll tell you why mainly right now I pulled them out, is that my liquid has really reduced to, I'm sorry, let me see if you can, to like a syrup. That is gonna like nicely coat my onions, especially knowing that I'm going to be reheating these, for the dinner. I'm not too worried.
Yeah, and I think we included some good instructions on the recipe, Chef Katie, of like how to reheat these if you do make them in advance. So that's good to know.
Yeah, just a little bit of water and then dump them in there and it just loosens it up. You could even reheat it in the oven. I think is a nice way too to get like a really uniform heat on them. Okay, so I am now gonna turn my top oven down to 350 for my cake.
Chef, I have one question before you move on to your cake about those shallots. So say we were going to eat them right now and our liquid was kind of, glazy, but the shallots were not done. Could we just add a little bit more What should we add?
Oh, that's a great idea. So you could definitely add a little more water and just put them back in the oven. You also could pull out the shallots. Like for mine, you know, most of them are really good. It's just like a few big ones that are a little harder.
Yeah.
You could put those on a separate tray and just finish baking them in the oven as well. But actually, you know what? I'm gonna take my own advice. I'm gonna add a little bit of water.
Oh.
And put them back in. How about that?
I like it.
So back in they go. Okay. All right, friends. How about, well, what do you guys want to do? You want to make the anchovy sauce or the cake? How are we feeling? Anybody have a vote? How about my folks that are cooking at home?
What do they think? Do they want to chime in?
Cake. You can give like a letter C if you want cake. Cake.
C. Okay.
Going for cake. All right, let's do the cake.
Yeah, Darian typed the letter C in the chat. I will say,
Okay.
we originally, I think we planned that this class would be over by 7. It's not going to be over by 7, but hopefully you can hang in there with us. And if you can't, it's okay. Just know we'll get you the recording, and you can always, you know, check out the last bits if you do need to head off. But hopefully everybody can hang in there.
Yeah, and I will say we are pretty close. I mean, the cake isn't going to take long. So I did, like I showed you guys earlier, I do have all of my dry ingredients already in my bowl. I have a cute little whisk that I'm going to whisk my dry ingredients together. By doing this, the dry ingredients first, it means I can now use my whisk for my wet ingredients, and I don't have to dirty two things. So let's see, I need my milk.
Oh, Katie, you have to tell us your special trick for when you don't have the milk. Remember, you left us hanging.
I started, but I never finished telling you guys about that, huh?
Yeah, we need.
So what I do if I don't have milk is I just add water to yogurt until it is the consistency of milk. And it's a great substitute in like muffins, cakes, like this cake. So you can for sure try that one at home. I do it all the time. It is foolproof. Okay, I got my 1/3 cup measurer. So I get 1/3 of a cup of milk. When you're measuring liquids in like a dry measuring cup like this, there is a slight difference, but for something as tiny as 1/3 of a cup of liquid, I'm not going to stress it too much for this one. Okay, we get 2 tablespoons of oil and 1/4 cup of sugar. So I've already got my 1/4 cup of sugar measured out. I've got my egg right here. It's been hanging out on my counter, so it's a nice room temperature, which is actually really great because then it mixes in to your with your other liquids really easily. And 2 tablespoons of oil. So I just use canola oil is like my plain oil that I have at home. And I'm just gonna whisk until this, comes together to a pretty uniform amount. All right, and then I'm actually gonna just set this aside. I'm not gonna mix my wet and dry together until right before I'm ready to put it in the pan. Oh, yes. All right, so I got this cute little skillet here that I'm going to, actually, let's cut up our apples and pears first. So it calls for about a cup of fruit, which I think will be approximately half of an apple and half of a pear. But what I'm really looking for is to make sure that it covers the entirety of my skillet. I'm going to use that same technique that I used earlier with the broccoli stem that we call squaring off. So I'm going to cut my apple 4 times around the core, right? So that all I have left is this core and there's no seeds or anything in my apple. And then I'm going to dice them so that they're about the size of a blueberry. This means that we'll be able to fit a fair amount into our pan. I'm gonna leave this one and just see if I have enough fruit before I cut it.
Definitely do this with either just apple or just pear also.
Yes.
I like the combo though. And then you can have a snack while you're making your dish. Sometimes you get hungry while you're cooking and you need a little snack.
Yeah, no, it's true. So I'm actually just going to use these 2 pieces of pear because I'm already looking at this fruit and I can tell that I'll have enough. Because I do want it to try to be pear and half apple. So since my pan isn't hot, I can totally test it out and see so that I know what a good amount is. Ta-da!
Perfect.
So yeah, actually I forgot what I said originally was a half of each. I went a little overboard.
That's okay. Now you have a snack. Or the kids will have a snack.
I was going to say, I'm going to give it to the kids.
Yeah. Excellent. Now, Katie, I know in this recipe we've mentioned that if you don't have a little tiny cast iron, that you have some other options that you can use.
Yeah, definitely. So a loaf pan works really well. Muffin tins work really nice. So definitely a lot of choices.
You can do the cooking step in a pan on the stove, like a small pan that you do have that maybe isn't safe enough to go in the oven with a cake baking inside of it, and just dump that mixture into your loaf pan or whatever little pan that you're going to use.
Yes, exactly.
I love the idea, though, of doing it all in one. It's perfect. It's very convenient.
Yeah, definitely. Well, and it's, I think actually another great thing to point out, the cast iron I made the shallots in is perfect for doubling this recipe. So it's very easy to double this recipe, and I feel like you're more likely to have a skillet that size. So what I'm doing right now is just melting my sugar and butter together to make, a little saucy sauce. And I'm just going to add about a teaspoon of water to my skillet. You don't want to let it go too far because the apples are actually not as juicy as the blueberries. So I did kind of learn that when I was testing this recipe, is that it needs that water even more so than the blueberries did. And I'm just mixing to incorporate it all together so that I have this nice sauce. I like to call the bubbles that are happening now fish eyes. Can you guys see this ring? That's a good sign that it's ready. And I'm just gonna turn it right off and add my apples carefully because hot sugar is painful. And I'm just gonna try to pat them down to get a somewhat of an even layer. I'm not gonna be too neurotic about this. So I think that looks nice. And now we're gonna do this very easy thing of mixing our wet and our dry together.
Katie, we have a quick question about the apples. Do you recommend a specific variety for this recipe?
So I have to say, I am just in love with Honeycrisp and Pink Ladies. If you live anywhere that grows apples and are lucky enough to have apples right now, locally grown apples are always the best. You could definitely use Granny Smith apples if you wanted to. Those I think have a nice little tang to them. Something that has a little firmness to it. Because when you bake it, you don't want it to be like so soft and squishy is my personal feeling. All right, and so I'm mixing my batter until just combined, right? So it just came together. I don't see any more wet spot or dry spots, so I'm done. And then, let me see if I want to show you guys how I pour it in there is like very carefully and to kind of, so that it, because it's kind of a thick batter. So I kind of like tap it so that it comes out in a segment, and then I'll go start from the beginning again. You just want to try to, you know, make it even in there. And then you can go back and like fill in any holes.
I feel like that was very satisfying watching you do that.
And again, that comes with practice. But I will say, I mean, again, this cake is really forgiving. All right, so that's it. I have a little bit of batter left over that I'll probably let my kids eat. And I do have this little tray. I'm going to put it on this tray so that there's no risk that any of my cake is going to overflow into my oven. I'm going to check on my broccoli. Ta-da! Look at that.
Ooh,
That's nice and good. Yeah, good and brown. I've got brown on both sides because my pan was nice and hot. Those look really good.
I love roasted vegetables. It doesn't even matter what it is. It tastes so good. When you roast a vegetable, oh, deliciousness. Crispy bits. Mmm.
My shallots are looking really good too. And my bigger ones are definitely nice and soft now. So thank you guys for like asking that question, because it really like helped me solve my own problem. And so I just mix it up a little bit to just, you know, keep trying to get that glaze all onto the shallots.
Can you move your camera just a hair so we can see you doing that? Oh, there we go. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So I'm just kind of tossing them in it so that they just get a really nice like coating on each one. All right, so those look really nice. And let's see. Okay, so the cake's in. All right, so let's make our anchovy sauce.
Oh, yeah.
I'm going to go ahead and move my broccoli off of my pan onto a plate so that when my sauce is ready, I can just pour it right on top. Okay, so okay. The anchovies, and actually, I'm sorry, let me move you guys a little bit closer. Great. There it is.
Oh yeah, we're getting a good close-up view of this one.
Okay, so I am gonna heat my pan up on like a medium-high heat. I have my anchovies right in my little bowl here, like I talked about. The anchovies are always packed in oil. My recipe called for like 4 to 5 anchovies. I'm gonna estimate that there's probably like 10 to 12 in one of those like little rectangular cans. If you do, well, okay, so some things you can do with those anchovies is make a Caesar salad dressing. We have a fabulous recipe on our website if you want to make your own Caesar salad dressing. You also can really either add a little more oil so that it's completely covered and put it in a nicely sealed container, and it will live indefinitely in your refrigerator until you're ready to make this dish again. This anchovy butter goes great on shrimp. It's really nice on cauliflower. It's great on green beans. So you'll see that it has this really big umami flavor to it, but it also has this toasty nuttiness to it. And that's what we're going to be doing in our pan right now, is getting it nice and toasty. And I'm hoping that like via this camera, you can see how brown it's going to get and how they just kind of dissolve. Like they literally just turn to dust. So I worked for a woman in New York City named Gabrielle Hamilton. She writes for the New York Times now. Her restaurant has not reopened, but she is who taught me how to make this anchovy butter. So I'm just keeping it moving around my pan. Actually, it's a little bit hotter than I wanted it to be, so I'm just gonna pull my pan off a little bit here. So this is a good way to like regain control when you know your skillet is hotter than you want it to be. Is not necessarily turning off your flame, but getting your pan off of the actual heat. Okay. So can you see like the little bit of brown happening here already on the skillet is the word I'm looking for. I'm gonna cut my lemon because I should have had that cut and ready to go. I also have my chicken stock hanging out here as well. Again, this is that like mise en place that we talk a lot about. All right, so can you see how it's like already starting to break up?
Yeah, they look like, looks like very dry and
and toasty. When I was making this, again, I did practice most of these recipes before I committed to teaching them to you guys, because I wanted to make sure that I wasn't like embarrassed or did something crazy. But when I was toasting the anchovies, my daughter came in and said, "Something smells so good." Yeah, so even if you think maybe you don't like anchovies like on pizza or like whole, when you brown them like this, they just are gonna disappear into your sauce. It's not like there's like chunks of it. So I'm just gonna give it a few more seconds here. Some of my bigger bits. So now what I'm gonna do for that is I moved half of my pan off of the heat. And I'm gonna move like those bigger pieces over here to where there is. I feel like these are some of those tips that like they don't even teach you in culinary school. You just learn the really hard way of like how to keep cooking something without burning something else. All right, so that is looking pretty good. I'm gonna turn my heat off. I'm gonna give this just like a little bit of time to cool down. If I put the lemon juice in here right away, it would evaporate so fast that I wouldn't get that zippy tanginess that I want from it. This also gives me a chance to kind of bust up some of these bigger bits. And that's why I really like to use a whisk to do this, because I'm gonna use a whisk when I put the butter in. It helps with this kind of breaking up part. All right. Can you guys see that pretty good?
Yeah, it looks very flaky, kind of.
And now, oh wait, that's the broccoli. Yeah. We're gonna do we're gonna juice this whole lemon. And again, I'm just using my fingers to catch the seeds. And I'm going to go ahead and add this chicken stock, and I'm going to turn my heat back on and let it reduce. All right, so I'm going to admit a mistake I just made that luckily I can remedy, which is that I left my butter out on the counter. And when you are making sauces like this, you want to add cold butter to your hot liquid. If you add like room temperature / New Orleans, it's like half melted butter to your dish, it will break. So I put my room temperature butter back in my fridge, and I got a fresh piece of cold butter. I just popped it. I had my butter sitting out on the counter too. So it's in the freezer. I think it's going to be fine. But I do think it's a great thing for you guys to know that when you're making pan sauces like this, you want to put cold butter in, because you want that butter to melt slowly. And you'll see what I'll do is I'll put my whisk on top of it, and I'm going to kind of move it so that it doesn't all melt at once. I'm not adding it all to the pan together. So right now I have it going at a pretty good simmer, I would say, because all we're trying to do is reduce the chicken stock and the lemon juice to just concentrate that flavor a little bit more. Everything's out of my low oven. I don't trust my top oven at all. I don't use it very often. I just turned it up 10 degrees for my own sake.
I'm trying to talk and I'm muted. Chef Katie, I have a comment from Sherry who says she is gonna try to use umeboshi paste for the anchovies to make it vegetarian. What do you think of that?
I've never, what is that? Tell us all about it. What's umeboshi paste? It sounds Japanese. It sounds fermented.
I feel like I have heard of it, but I forget exactly what it is. Sherry will let us know. Also, Sarah wants to know, did you already put the butter in the sauce?
Not yet.
Okay, so we're doing stock first, bubble, then we go butter at the very end.
At the very end, exactly. So right now what I'm trying to do with this liquid is just have it reduce in half.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right.
So while I do that, I'm going to just chop up my almonds for the carrot salad.
Oh yeah, we still get to.
The recipe for the anchovies did not call for the lemon juice.
It's not on the recipe?
No, it says to sprinkle it on at the end.
Oh, well, that's the sauce. So let me see. Hold on. I have the printed recipe. So it's definitely in the ingredient list. Yeah. So number 6 here, it says to add the stock, return to heat, and allow to simmer to reduce in half. Add the butter and stir until melted and well combined. Oh, I see, the lemon juice. Is that what you were saying?
Yes.
That's okay. Well, so then you're right. Remember when I said at the beginning that I don't follow recipes very well? So I'm actually really glad that you pointed this out. Thank you. The key to adding it at the end is that lemon juice is a little fresher, has a little more pop to it. So certainly I always taste everything as I go. I will taste this at the end. You could do it either way, I would say. You could add the lemon juice to the chicken stock, or you could juice it on top of the broccoli at the end.
And thank you for pointing that out because I will fix it and then get it updated for future reference.
Yeah.
So Sherry has informed us that our umeboshi is Japanese pickled plums.
Oh, yeah.
I would love to hear how that ends up coming out with this dish, Sherry. You'll have to keep us posted and let us know. Send us an email after you do it.
All right, so I'm really just rough chopping my almonds right now, like not anything, like I still want, you know, a pretty good chunk of almond. I'll show you what it looks like. So that is good enough, I think, for the carrot salad.
There's truly going to be so many textures in that dish.
All right, I just turned off the heat. So I'm going to show you guys what this sauce is looking like. I wish you guys could see my house right now. It's kind of hilarious. Like my laptop is like stacked up on cookbooks and okay, so here is my reduced by half. I've got my butter. So see how I made it like stick onto my whisk like this? And I'm just gonna slowly move it around. Now, if you do sense that your sauce is about to break, which means that like it's not coming together, right? You're seeing a lot of, you know, like oil. It just becomes like separated, I guess is the best way to put it. You can add a teaspoon or two of water to help it come all together. But look at that. That is a lovely sauce. I'm going to taste it. And see if I might need to add a little more lemon juice when I sauce it or not. No, it's good. The lemon is still pretty bright and acidic in there. So I think you could do it either way. I think in the long run, this kind of makes it easier. That's just all in one pan, but I wouldn't stress too much about it either way. All right, I'm gonna rotate my cake because remember my ovens are weird. All right, it's looking good though. It's like poofed up a little bit. It has a nice dome. I think it's time to plate the carrots. So what I'm gonna show you guys is like a serving for two, since my husband and I will be eating this. Actually, let me show you the onion real quick. So some thinly sliced onion. And, you know, all onions are a different size. So, like, I never believe a recipe when it's like half of an onion. I'm like, you know what? I'll put as much onion in as I want to put in. So, I recommend you all do the same. I'm going to go ahead and just cut this right down the center. And then I'm going to cut it into quarters. And I'm going to only use this quarter of an onion. So, now I'm going to cut the top and the bottom off. By doing it the way I just showed you, I feel like it just gives my onion some longevity. I'm going to save those bits for my stock. This is a hard habit to break, my friends. You should see it if, like, when I catch my husband, he's like throwing carrot peelings in the trash can. It's like Mommy Dearest, right, about the plastic hangers. I'm like, why would you waste these beautiful carrot peelings? Okay, so the trick for very nice thinly sliced onions is to use your knuckles as the guide, okay? So my knife is literally resting on my knuckle so that I can get a nice thin slice. The blade itself is only touching the onion, but the top of the knife, right, is what my knuckles kind of bump into. And honestly, for a serving of two, I think that you know, amount of sliced onion will be very nice. I got my yogurt. Okay, so you just put a nice smear of yogurt on your plate. So, you know, chefs love to put this dollop, and then you use the back of your spoon to kind of spread it out. We'll grab a few carrots. I'm gonna get some big ones and some little ones and this purple one. Okay, so that I have like a few varying sizes. I'm just gonna kind of drop them onto my plate. I can put my few raw onions on there. I think that's enough. A sprinkle of the almonds. I've got my blood orange segments. A little bit of goat cheese from a local farm. I got this at my farmer's market last week. I have not opened it. Every time my husband cooked, I told him, don't touch the goat cheese. Don't touch my carrots. I was so worried he was gonna like use up my ingredients. If you don't like goat cheese, you can absolutely omit this part. I love goat cheese. I know Heather does too. I think that's also why she was excited about this dish. A little bit of that like tangy of the goat cheese with the the sweet of the oranges. All right, so there's that. And then I went out to my garden. I felt very like Anne of Green Gables picking from my garden today. So I'm just gonna take these, the leaves, and just kind of drop them on top. Now, if you were making this for a larger group, you could certainly pick your herbs. That maybe the day before is probably the longest I would let that go. I don't have chervil growing in my garden, so there's no chervil here, but I do have a little bit of mint that I thought would be nice with this. So I'm just gonna do a little tear of mint on here as well. All right, that is our carrot dish. How are we feeling about that?
Did we put the dressing on? Did I miss that part? Was I not paying attention?
Nope.
Oh, okay. All right, good. I was paying attention.
Yeah, no, good job, Heather. Thank you.
But it looks beautiful. It looks like a garden on a plate. I feel like this is just, I think we put it in the recipe that this is like a restaurant quality, you know, plating. You'll really impress people if you serve this.
Yeah. Now, I think in the recipe, maybe it says to like toss the carrots in the dressing. I mean, again, friends, like don't be like, you don't have to do
either or.
It says.
It works either way.
Ooh, yeah, that's really good. Okay. That's that. Let's do our broccoli.
Where's the yogurt?
All right, same kind of idea that I've got this like single serving, you know. I got a few of the stems and a few of the florets in there. Let's make that look nice. I've got my sauce here. Now look, another great way to know your sauce is ready is that it coats the spoon. So you can kind of, I don't know if it shows up on the thing, but you can see where it like is on the back of the spoon. They call that nappe. And then you just drizzle a little bit on there. It does not need to be a lot. I mean, like a little of this goes a long way, but that's good.
And I know you kind of mentioned this, Katie, but I love that in that dish, it's a prime example of something that we do actually teach at Goldring Center about salt, which is that if we can use an ingredient that is salty but also has some other flavors going on, why not do that? So the anchovies are adding the salt to our dish, but they're more rich and complex in flavor than if we had just used salt on the broccoli. We do that trick a lot with like Parmesan cheese as well. You get the salty umami benefit of something besides just plain old salt.
Yeah.
Love it.
All right. and then here are our shallots again. I'm gonna pick out this bit of thyme, and you can do the same with the peppers. You can just pull them out and discard them. But now that it has cooled off some, I don't know if you'll be able to see via camera, but it is, it's a lot more of like a glaze. So now I'm gonna go back again and toss these. I mean, you can kind of see, right? You can't, I guess because of the black skillet, it's hard to probably even really see, but you're just gonna wanna continue tossing them so that they're nice and coated with all that goodness. And here, I'll put it on.
I feel like this is a dish that doesn't look it's not as visually stunning as that last one, but I bet you the flavor is totally there.
I'm gonna try to put it on like this stuff.
Oh yeah, glazy.
And then if you have people at your table that do like a little bit of heat, you certainly can cut one of these peppers just to give it this, again, like a little color so that it's not just like totally brown.
Yum.
Yeah, yummy. And then let's see, I can show you guys the cake, but it's not 100% done. But you can see where it has puffed up nicely, but I can tell in the center there it's not cooked all the way. So with that cake, you want the tester to come out clean, whether it's a toothpick or a fork, and then really allowing it to cool for like 8 to 10 minutes. You still want the skillet to be warm to the touch, like where you probably still would want an oven mitt. You just don't want it to be like smoking hot, like fresh out of the oven, but giving it a little bit of time for that cake to set and the caramel to kind of congeal, let's say, then is a really nice time to just invert it on a plate. So you can put a plate on top and flip it over, or if you're, trust yourself enough, you can kind of.
I would do the first way.
Yeah, but having it be a little bit warm is really going to be helpful for it not sticking to the bottom of your pan.
Awesome. Well, Katie, you know what we should do? When you do that step, you need to send me a picture so then I'll include it tomorrow in the email with the video.
Okay, I can absolutely do that. That'll be great.
That will be great. Awesome. Well, I want to say I loved this class tonight. I hope everybody had a fun time. I think it was really fun to show some side dishes and a dessert that is different from what we might normally do at the holidays, but maybe this is a good time to try something different. And also, I think particularly that broccoli recipe is one that's quick and easy enough that could be a great thing that you just put in your regular rotation of new side dishes. Like it could work anytime.
Yeah, it's great. And like I said too, like it really is very versatile with a lot of produce. So it doesn't even have to be broccoli, like green beans, cauliflower, heartier. Like I probably wouldn't do it with like zucchini or squash. I don't know if that would work as well, but things that don't expel a lot of liquid and that roasts really nicely, it pairs well with.
That sauce would probably be even great on the carrots, like a roasted carrot. Why not? Yeah. Love it. Well, thanks everybody. I think we'll wrap it up here and say goodbye. I'm gonna go back to our view where we get to see everybody so we can say goodbye and good night. I hope everybody has a wonderful Thanksgiving next week. And I hope that y'all are staying safe and well. Thank you again so much for joining our class tonight. We will definitely try to include some pictures. We've got some requests here for some pictures of the dishes. So Katie, maybe snap a few photos before we dig in tonight so we can include them.
Yay! And I would like to say a special thanks to all of the people. There are so many faces that I recognize because I feel like you do every class. and I love that. There's also some new faces of some friends. My good friend Anne, all the way from Washington State. All right. And Caitlin also, like old edible schoolyard friends, makes me really happy. My girlfriend Virginia was on here earlier. My mom, Fancy Nancy, also a very, very regular person. So,
And I know we have somebody all the way from Alaska joining us tonight, which is super fun and exciting.
yeah, we're going everywhere.
There, yes. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much for supporting our program. Happy holidays.
Happy holidays. We have, next class, December.
Oh, yeah.
We're going to put out some ads for it, but it's our edible gifts. If you haven't already signed up for it, I know a lot of you have signed up for it. I saw your names. If you haven't already signed up for it, think about doing it. We're finalizing our menu this week of what we're going to do for that first class, but we are definitely going to come up with some great things that you can make to give out to your family and friends, or just keep for yourself this year, whatever. Really good, delicious, edible stuff. Oh my gosh, we're seeing some dishes.
Yeah, Caitlin's got the cake. All right.
iPad. Woohoo! The cake looks great. Yum. Okay, I'm hungry. I gotta go eat something, but it was Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye.
Good night.